You Are Empty is a game that didn't get much attention on launch and was critically panned. But fast forward 15 years or so, and suddenly the entire internet knows of this game, and much of the internet now considers it a bit of a hidden gem. It's a bizarre, surreal experience of a game. Yeah, it's incredibly janky, but it's at least unique. Oddly, many people have been calling it the Civi game, even though I covered it in 2019 and Civi didn't cover it until a year later. My video actually got a decent amount of views too. That's not beef with Civi, I love that guy. We served in the Chaser Mines together, and we seem to share the same mindset of playing incredibly bad games for content for your entertainment at the expense of our sanity. Hey everyone, Jarek here, and what if I told you they made You Are Empty 2? And just put it on Steam? Well, I would only kinda be lying. The dev behind You Are Empty is a studio called Digital Spray Studios, and they did make 2 games, and the second one did just get posted to Steam, bizarrely enough. But that second game is called Instinct. What's amazing about this game is that it actually just kind of works. Yeah, I'm surprised by that too. You can buy it on Steam for a couple of dollars, install it, it even has a 1440p resolution option, and I never had a single crash. I didn't even need to lock the frame rate or do anything. Literally just launch on Steam and play. I did have one weird hiccup, and that was when the game was loading, it popped up an error. So I thought it crashed, so I hit enter. Then it started loading again, and popped up another error, and I hit enter. Did this about 7 more times, and it just loaded into the next level anyway. And nothing seemed to be different, so I don't know what the errors were, but they didn't seem to matter. Also, I think the game crashed. It did. Oh, it's spamming errors, but it's still loading. Okay, that's weird. It works though, and it Alright, sure. So yes, if you were more curious about whatever the devs behind You Are Empty were up to at the time, this is it. They made 2 games, only 2, and this is the second one. Not as popular on the internet, so let's give it a go. Unfortunately, Instinct is nowhere near as interesting as You Are Empty. Story-wise especially. This is one of those stories where governments are trying to make a virus that turns people into zombies. That's it, that's the story. It doesn't have the atmosphere or surreal everything that You Are Empty had, which is a shame. Because as janky and weird as You Are Empty is, I found it to be a really fun experience just for that reason alone. Instinct is, in a lot of ways, just another zombie game. I'll give them some credit and say they were a little ahead of everyone else. 2007 was before COD Zombies blew up and zombie games were everywhere, but whatever, it doesn't make it more interesting to me. What is interesting is the presentation of the story. I wish I could tell you more about the story, but I can't, for 2 reasons. The first one is just that it's not very interesting, so I can only go in depth about it as much as I would want to. And the second one is that it's entirely in Russian. And even though the cutscenes have subtitles, the gameplay does not. The cutscenes seem like they want to be Max Payne, but without the self-awareness.
Свободы ей захотелось. Я не вещь, я женщина.
I already don't like the main protagonist. And according to a viewer in my Twitch chat, the initial voice acting was a lot more colorful than the subtitles. Yeah, it's in Russian, I wouldn't expect anything else. You play as White. What's his first name? Don't remember, don't really care, gonna be honest. You see the character you're playing as up in the top left. You work in the military, and for the first 70% of the game, you're just going on different missions, killing enemies. Not a whole lot is really happening during those missions, but the cutscenes give you a little more insight as to what's happening behind the scenes, and is leading up to some bomb going off. Well, interestingly enough, at some point you actually play as another member of your squad. This is only relevant because there's, for some reason, some sort of love triangle going on in the story. I only figured this out because the person that spoke Russian in my Twitch chat was able to explain that to me, because again, there's no subtitles and that's not really explained in any cutscene other than this one. Her missions are important for one thing alone. She eventually gets killed. This breaks White in a way that's fitting for an action movie. I'm incredibly mad, kill everything. Yeah, like I said, it's kind of cliche. But White is also a complete dumbass, because within a couple of minutes of meeting the scientist convinces him to stab himself with a needle and inject whatever is in it. Shocker, it's the virus that's turning people into zombies. But not just any zombie, this one's the prototype N. This apparently makes zombies slightly larger, regenerate their health, and basically unkillable. It also apparently lets them kill people by just looking at them and thinking real hard. Now, what does any of this mean gameplay-wise? Unfortunately, absolutely nothing. Okay, well, not really nothing. You do regenerate health very slowly. But what about those powers where you're able to just look at people and make them pop? Yeah, nothing. You don't get that. That never happens. I was so confused because the moment you become infected, your view model changes entirely. You hold weapons one-handed and your left hand is just kind of out there. That must mean you have some sort of powers to do with your left hand, right? I mean, the entire game, I saw in the settings menu that right-click was the alt fire for your weapons. But the only weapon that has an alt fire is your shotgun. And that's just the melee. So surely, right click should be some sort of power you get. Nope, nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Still standard shooter, just now with a different model you're looking at. Why? Why any of this? Why not make it more interesting? It doesn't really matter anyway, it's just a revenge story. You put a bomb on a rocket, blow it up, and that's the end of the game. Yeah, so they tried. That's about all I can say about the story. The gameplay is slightly more interesting. Not by much, but it's more interesting on its gameplay mechanics. Or should I say the mechanics of other games that are in this game are more interesting. Yeah, as you might have noticed, a lot of these animations look really familiar. Okay, yeah, they definitely pulled stuff from Counter-Strike. Because that is not how an M4 works. Oh god, this came out in 2007. You already knew that wasn't how the M4 worked. Why did you continue to copy Counter-Strike? The G36 is the funniest one to me. You figure you'd cock it at the top using the cock handle, but no. You pull back the bullet deflector thing, which for some reason is part of the bolt and moves when you shoot it. Why does it work like this? Now, I typically don't care at all if there's mistakes about guns in video games. That's not really what defines what's fun in a first-person shooter. But when it's this wrong, it's just really, really funny. But how do these guns feel? Well, kind of like Counter-Strike. These guns are wildly inaccurate. If you want them to actually be accurate, not moving and crouching is your best bet. That said, unlike Counter-Strike, if you're crouching, you can kind of just go wild in full auto. This doesn't really have a recoil pattern like Counter-Strike has, it just has a bloom spread. This does make shooting enemies at range kind of difficult at times. Okay, I'm making a lot of jokes about these weapons, but they're not actually that bad feeling. If you played You Are Empty, you know what I mean. Firing a double barrel into an enemy and watching it do a backflip was always fun. This has this mid-2000s ragdoll energy to it, and I just love that. Plus, the weapons do feel like they have recoil in some sort of an impact. This is very clearly the same engine as You Are Empty, and while that didn't have the best gunplay ever in any game I had played before, it was serviceable enough, and that's about how I would describe this game. The main problem you'll run into with this game when it comes to gameplay is just that it's a bit repetitive. While You Are Empty could rely on its zaniness to keep you entertained, this game can't. You'll pretty much only fight two enemies the entire game. Generic military dudes that sit back and shoot at you or run straight at you and shoot at you, and zombies. The zombies at least have some variation to them. You have the regular ones that just try to walk up and hit you. You have ones with an axe, and then you have ones that have shotguns that have body armor, and they do tank a decent amount of damage. But that's it. It kind of just turns into your generic first-person shooter. Walk down hallways, enemies spawn, kill enemies, keep going. In the case of zombie enemies, it almost feels like a much worse version of Doom 3, where they'll spawn in front of you and then spawn behind you trying to catch you off guard, and this happens every single time. Yeah, so if you can't tell, this game isn't exactly what I would call great material. It's a very generic game. It can't even be bad in a way that's necessarily entertaining like You Are Empty was bad. It's just boring, and that's the worst kind of bad, because it's difficult to make that entertaining of a video of it. And it's not even bad enough to be frustrating to play, to get interesting reactions. The most interesting reactions I got was me just doing stupid stuff and accidentally getting myself killed. Okay, sure. God damn it. So, yeah, that's Instinct. Instinct was the last game these devs ever made, and playing it, I can see why. Hey, big thanks to my YouTube members. They get to see my videos early. If you want to become a YouTube member, it's not that expensive, and you get to see videos sometimes like a month ahead of time. This one, I made a couple weeks ago by the time I post this, so consider that. Hey, if you haven't seen the original You Are Empty video, there it is right there. You can watch that if you want to. Or if you just want more content like this, then check out that playlist, a bunch of content like this. Or consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. See you next time.